Interesting. Bay tasked Janae asked how, and this question came up the other day when Sister for Sharon was on. How could someone nationalize inside the prison? And the problem is that most things are blocked.
They block.
They block that.
So, and this is what people need to know too, Dr. G, that the prisons are actually POW camps.
Absolutely.
And they should be called in international law what they are designated in international law. They are prison camps, and the people, which is why they're predominantly Asiatic, tagged or branded as blacks and Latinos, predominantly, because the people are under occupation. Now, the cognizance of the pedigree and the bloodline is a birthright issue. It is not a political or religious issue. It is a pedigree issue of the bloodline of the people. Cognizance of it or knowing it is in itself the major part of nationalization, because you can't become what you already are.
That's right.
You are who your ancient mothers and fathers were and are, with no doubt, no contradiction. It is irrefutable. Therefore, reawaken to who you are. Man, know thyself. And that's for starters. And once you do, stop calling yourself the brand systems that they set up to steal your birthright. In the process, from a political administrative position, even though they're blocking you, what it does, it kills the bond systems which are necessary for their economic operations, which means the bottomry instruments set up by the pseudo Congress of and for the U.S. corporation company disguised as legitimate government, which is the basis of their economic stock market trade, collapses when you act positively upon your knowledge of being more. That's why this information is being attacked from all angles. And that's the truth. See, the deal is, like we said earlier, Rome will prompt, as the people are awakening and reawakening, Rome recognized that the danger of their rulership is people's consciousness of it. And when the people become conscious, they will put an apple out there for redemption or promise of redemption, like UCC redemption, holder in due course. Now, not that these principles aren't correct in their nature, but this is what they present. UCCs, UCC 3 and 9 financial statements, which is really a data collection, truthfully, disguised as redemption, and then use it against you. And so understand that these are dark priests that have actually been operating government. And so since you've been disarmed by intelligence, this is again where the General Education Board comes in that we talked about earlier with the Frederick T. Gates Foundation and Rockefeller Foundation. Therefore, understanding that the foundation of their operations is fiat or blind faith operations or breach of trust constructed operations by members of the Circle Church and Chancery. So every instrumentality that they will present to you will be colored. So if you approach any promise from Rome that they will return your right of estate to you, is only a trick for buying them time. My position has always been is rebut and reject Rome, and the bond will fall, and therefore all instrumentality constructed to the straw man and issued on the stock market by its very nature of operation in the rule of heirship, when the heirship becomes cognate by law that the estate must be restored to the heir from the hands of the FOFR or trustee. And they breach that principle constantly. So for those of you who have even used the different commercial processes at cost, for cost, because remember, birthright is a divine right. It is not to be bought or sold. An unalienable or inalienable right cannot be converted or sold or transferred to another. Therefore, there must not be a monetary fee involved. Therefore, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and it kills the bond. And when you kill the bond, it kills their economic system. So if you shut off the blood supply, vampire, he's bad with his cape and all this stuff, but he can't play the super guy too long when he's lacking blood. Therefore, an exploiter, quote unquote, vampire needs your blood, and he needs your cooperation and consent. Stop consenting and watch the vampire die. That's what you do. Claim your nationality and kill the bond. Meanwhile, take the time to study and learn to reject all the other systems and platforms that Rome has constructed for the enslavement of humanity, and come to each and one another's aid sincerely. That's how you're going to defeat the demons, because that's the truth. Because you need each other. You really do.
So there was a question I'm trying to find. There was a comment or something about, and I'm using codes because I don't want to. So I want.
You have to, because the demons are on the platform.
I'm gonna call it A and Chrome, and we know about that. They want to know, I guess, what you know about the A Chrome. But I can say, for one thing, it's very interesting. My mind went back to a particular so-called movie star that, over I think in the last year and a half or two, wife divorced him, and one of the things that was at issue was the amount of expensive wine he was buying. This expensive wine. This particular actor started
the Roman ritual of the Roman
Pirates of the Caribbean. Mm-hmm. You'll know who it is, and looking quite youthful. But the wife, one of the things the wife cited was paying like $1,000.
No, it cost around $8,000
for bottles of wine.
A pint.
It was wine
and you see the priesthood doing this ritual too.
But it wasn't wine.
Of course, it's not.
And you see the ones that have been youthful.
It deals with child sacrifice.
Since Trump put started to
an executive order against
put the executive order. Do you see how many of them have aged or disappeared altogether? Mm-hmm. Because they haven't had their $8,000 wine.
It's one of the reasons why I said, a year ago or more, about 2 years ago, when I started saying that I'm not defending, don't confuse me saying what I'm saying or what I've said with support of. Just look at this thing from a metaphysical point of view. When I said that Donald Trump is assigned, he is assigned. Pay attention.
Yeah.
And I said that years ago, and I'm saying it again. And I'm telling you why I said it.
Mm-hmm. So there are, I highly recommend Noble Mormon, that Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon, Laurel Canyon, Covert Ops in the Dark Heart of the Hippie Dream. That is a very, very eye-opening book. Currently also I'm reading, Sister Cynthia turned me on, Martin L. to the Wilmington, the lie that happened in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Oh, yes.
And can you, I just got, because somebody called me about this, and I just got Peter Moon's Montauk Book of the Dead.
Yeah.
Because the person that told me about it was really, really just over the moon, no pun intended, about the fact that I guess Noble Drew Ali is mentioned in that.
Yeah, I talked to Peter Moon a few years back. And
the conspiratorial things that took place with other
the betrayed organizations, yes.
Yeah, so you got an album,
which is available in the congressional records, actually. Yeah. Also in the for those of you who are researchers, give you some reference. The history of American religions, you'll find some of the documented facts that Peter Moon also mentioned in reference to Noble Drew Ali, and you'll recognize other so-called black organizations that claim Islam were breakoffs under COINTELPRO operations to actually divert people from the Moorish Divine and National Movement by design to create schism. And it's a known fact. And it's also one of the uncomfortable pieces of information that was exposed to Il Malik, known to most as Malcolm X, when he made the Hajj by a French Muslim, etc. When, of course, according to instructions, Malcolm went over there talking black and white, and he was corrected about the truth of the schisms that were operating at the Maghreb, which is actually here, Morocco, the most extreme west. And he was put in a very uncomfortable position. And also that knowledge, among other things, and revelation of that knowledge made Malcolm become, by not from his fault, but just from being exposed to other knowledge, he became the target of character assassination and the conspired person of assassination by members of the gangs of New York and other persons claiming to be religious who were supposed to be his brothers in concert to remove his life, because they knew that he was eventually telling certain truths that made a lot of people uncomfortable. So it's more about Malcolm X that many of you all need to research. Truthfully, that's not told to many people in public.
And folk know, I mean, people know, a lot of people know that know we need to listen to. And I'm planning to have some more people on, guests rather, on Office Hours with Dr. G. They may be European, but they're speaking the truth. I was just in a conference the other day who had Richard Smith and his wife Maria had, and thank you to my sister Cynthia Martin L. And there was a modern European daughter there, teach Michelle Gibson.
Oh yeah, Michelle Gibson.
Michelle Gibson,
a scholar and a researcher,
speaking the truth about us and doing it from a standpoint of not trying to show historical research, and the fact that when she found out what the truth was,
it is what it is.
It is what it is. It is what it is. So she's doing everything she can to expose the truth.
And keep in mind, as we go through this trauma, some will call it transition, some will call it apostasy, some will call it Armageddon. All means the same thing. Those who put themselves on the line to help with the uplifting of fallen humanity during this time of turmoil will be remembered. Keep that in mind. Those who have the courage to stand against the odds and tell the truth in this time of turmoil, where the dark priesthood and vampires are at the height of their power and are attacking anything that deals with the activation of the pineal gland, or with justice, or with that which is right, or anything that's de jour, or anything that is Moorish. Keep in mind, those who aid in the help of uplifting fallen humanity will be remembered.
Let me see if there's any more comments. Yeah. What nation does one such as self-Caucasian claim ancestry is Ukraine, or is that a different situation? I've been watching your work for years. So full of knowledge you give. Thank you. This is from Ukraine.
Now, still, if you look at Ukraine, you still look back to the daughters of Nefertiti. You're still looking at Saba. Once you really begin to look at the history and the walk of man, you'll find that we're one big family that fell into schism by the hands of the dark priests of the world. Now, that's the truth. Another thing that you can look at, like for the brothers and sisters from Ukraine, look at your traditional dress, your traditional, what they'll call them now, rather than call them traditional garb, They'll call them traditional costumes all over the world. Look at the constructs of your traditional dress, your traditions, your customs, and then look at the etymology of your linguistic forms, and it'll trace you back again to the ancient Sufi, i.e., the men with the hair like lamb's wool, i.e., Saba, Sabi. That's the truth. So it's sort of like we're suffering all over this planet from the hybrid Europeans claiming to be us, but who are not us, who have been practicing destroying the original culture of Asia, Africa, and separating humanity and hiding the truth of the walk of man, and therefore making people think that your contemporary names of the different nation states has separated you from the truth of African origin when the planet is Africa. So keep that in mind. So look at the customs, look at the dress, and then look at the ancient customs and dress of ancient Saba or Africa or the Gnostics, and you will see absolute and direct constructive conjoined similarity showing you the origin. So also look at the ancient Naga. There you go. It's traceable. It's just that there's been so much denial that people, so much effort to destroy Moorish history and culture that people start thinking separate when we're not so separate as people have been thinking that we are.
Let me see if there's any. I'm actually ignoring and blocking trolls, but I was gonna laugh. Somebody said that neither one of us are Moors. They are so funny.
That's fine.
I think I want to laugh. I want to laugh. I don't know what that was, but
it doesn't matter.
You are blocked. Aha. Now you were blocked. How about that? Yeah. Let me see if there are any more comments. I have to learn how. Taj, do you know the name of the book by Lincoln where he called Dred Scott a Moor? It was a book. It says, do you know the name of the book by Lincoln where he called Dred Scott a Moor? Did he?
No, I have a couple of books on Lincoln.
Was it Dungy or was it Dred?
No, that would be because when Lincoln was a lawyer, he was defending against the slander of William Dungy being called a Negro and a black. Because he's dealing with the pedigree from a law perspective, dealing with the slander laws of the United States, etc., which have always been in place. And that would be the William Dungy case
not the
of 1853, in 1852, 1853 era. That would be the William Dungy case when Abraham Lincoln was a lawyer. This was before he was president for the United States.
Was it a book or was it just a legal?
Do the research on legal documents registered in Cook County, Illinois, and you'll find some of the affidavits issued by Abraham Lincoln. And that would be more specifically the William Dungy case, although that was not the only case that was argued in a period of time. That was one of your primal cases. And the William Dungy case is a few years before the Dred Scott case. And keep in mind that the Dred Scott case is deemed as the most important slave case ever to be presented before the Supreme Court of the United States. And that was ruled in 1857. So the William Dungy case was before the Dred Scott case. And those are two important cases dealing with status and estate and those principles relative to citizenship, the capacities and the incapacities in relationship to citizenship. And for those of you, or for the average brother and sister out there, and people out there doing a little bit of research, just go to any standard quality dictionary and look up Moor, look up black or Moor, the compound word, and just do a general history on all the persons or people who are dark complexion or Asiatic Africans. And that'll give you just basic knowledge that all scholars know. and any researcher knows. This is just basic stuff. Then if you're doing any research into Asiatic African history, philosophy, culture, seven liberal arts, the fundamental rules of erudition and education that have been a standard across the world, including the oldest universities in the world, go look up Moorish history to study African history, and it takes you in and back to your ancient Canaanite, Moabite history and culture of Hikupta, Egypt, etc., universally for all African Asiatic people. And that's a fact. Don't take my word for it. Do your own research. And so when you have trolls or people who are trying to divert you, keep in mind these are people who have been benefiting from the civil liter mortuus operations that have been particularly executed at North America, Northwestern Mexico, and exported around the world, etc., to keep this knowledge in the dark. And generally, it is referred to, quote unquote, in secret society as the Great Seal, quote unquote, as Muhammad's Mountain, quote unquote, or the Great Masonic Secret. All of those are phrases that actually hide the true history, much of the true history and the disciplines of the walk of man. And it is not limited to what people refer to as some religious perspective. It is actually the science and the disciplines of humanity at Midgard in general.
Let's see. Foster Cameron Hunter said, what does Alkebulan mean? The same as Asia?
Yeah, Alkebulan is also referred to as Hikupta, or what you call Africa, and certain sections of Africa, or Hikupta, they refer to as Kemet. So when you think about it, from a common perspective in modern educational platforms, they will limit to you of the modern contemporary name of Egypt, limited to a jurisdiction in North Africa on the east side of Asia Minor today. But in fact, in context of time, it included most of the landmass of the world, in truth, including the entire Western Hemisphere, which comprises Hikupta or Egypt, the capital dominion, in fact.
Let me just see. Hot Tot L. Todd, what do you think about speaking in tongues as it relates to Christianity and spirituality overall? Can you speak about that?
This is the position I take on that. If one is given a message from the spirit realm, it's usually for yourself. And anyone who receives spiritual communication, and if they have some comprehension, they should be able to etymologically interpret it and give reference to it. For all what you will call linguistic formats, even going back to Sanskrit of ancient Sudan and Nubia, etc., of ancient Hikupta, of the lower Egypt, etc., is certainly available, including the cuneiform constructs, etc. And therefore, if someone say they receive a message, they certainly should be able to interpret it. And if they can interpret the ancient linguistic forms, certainly they should know the basic etymological constructs of modern forms of language. And if they can't do the one, they certainly can't do the other.
Okay. Patar Right Knowledge said, is the word Africa, is it of hybrid origin?
Africa is not so much hybrid. It is actually coming, or Ifrika, is Ifrika, from the ancient world of Berber linguistic groups. And even America, as you know, comes because ancient name for Africa is just simply more contemporary, is Amexem. And you have the prefix of Amexem and the suffix of Africa, which makes America. So when you do the etymological and linguistic grammatical study of linguistic form, America is Africa. Always was. But this is one of the traps in linguistics, which is also demonstrated again in this 8th grade test that we shared with you earlier of how they dumb down the people. And once you start doing some of even your basic discipline study, many of these questions that are asked, which are totally legitimate, you will answer them yourself. And this is where we're trying to do the best that we can with most people, get them back to fundamental disciplines and the actual arts, or in linguistic, grammatical, and scientific disciplines that is generally loosely referred to as more science, in order to fix a lot of these problems. Because keep in mind, one of the deliberated war or psychic attacks that it has been deliberately perpetrated against the people is connotative linguistics. And this is where the priesthood has deliberately corrupted linguistic formats to cause this confusion in the first place. Because actually, when you start doing etymological research, which is the true history, the true meaning, and the true origin of words, and do what you call cross-reference, you will start recognizing actually the customs and the culture, which is the lex or the jurisprudence, and find the commonality of humanity on earth, and not what you call the towers of Babel, or the corruption on earth for the corruption of the linguistic form. And that's the truth.
Terrence Lyles asks, with many of the leadership of the Black Panther Party being educated in the degree system, why were they not preaching Moorish heritage and nationality?
Keep in mind, if you do, this is a good answer for this. Do the research on COINTEL operations at North America via the FBI and the CIA, and particularly those operations headed under the Skull and Bones operative known as J. Edgar Hoover. And you'll recognize that all organizations of Aboriginal people, and specifically Moors, etc., who are tagged as Black, have been infiltrated deliberately, and that those distinctions, including dealing with educators, were distinctly instructed not to support or expose Moorish history. Those were direct orders. You will find that in all in all of the information exposed for those who are researchers, with the infiltration into the Moorish Divine National Movement, and particularly under the Moorish Science Temple of America. We're talking documents, and all of the so-called Negro and so-called Black organizations were infiltrated, and particularly with most of the leadership that has been compromised, for them to promote the Black nom de guerre in order to divert the energies and the positive actions, particularly dealing with hereditament, etc., in relationship to the Aboriginal people of the planet. And this has much to do with, again, with the bottomry instruments that are the support basis for the bond system on the stock market. That's why, again, there's when people are looking at the social economic problems of our targeted community, it never dawns on them that the instrumentality of the stock market is actually founded upon their backs. And the bonds are not a chain, the bonds are the bottomry instruments. And so all organizations that seek to restore legitimate self-government operations are, by organized operation, attacked and infiltrated. That is much and has much to do with the motivations as to why many of these people that you may consider who present themselves as helping our people will pretend that Black is African identity, when the word Black is not a negative. Keep this in mind, it's not negative. It creates a status platform of non-descendability, corporal and incorporeal, that supports birthright theft. But Black, in fact, actually comes from Middle English 1500s, derived from Old High German, and actually means pale colors. That's exactly what the word black means. It means pale colors. For those who doubt it, go to any etymological dictionary, any basic grammar dictionary, grammar supported dictionary, or etymology on the English language, and you will see for yourself that the word black does not mean African people. It means pale colors. And you know what pale means? It does not mean noir. It does not mean ebony.
Amin Bey says question. So if everything we come into direct contact with poses a danger of spreading a dangerous, contagious, and deadly disease, then why has handling fiat not been an issue of concern?
Because you already know that the foundation is a fraud. It's self-evident. You know, they attack people's common sense because common sense applies to common law. So people are groomed to even deny common sense because the answer becomes obvious. It's obvious that this is a farce being heaped upon humanity. And it's both a psychological attack and a biological attack, as demonstrated and as presented in the King Alfred Rex 84 Executive Order 11490, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. It's that too is documented. And keep in mind, all your so-called leaders, black leaders, most of whom are